Welcome to the Juice Box with Juice Springsteen, covering the week that was in professional wrestling. And welcome once again to another edition of the Juice Box. I am Juice Springsteen, and we have a packed show for you guys today. We have the Full Gear AEW pay-per-view prediction show with myself, as always, and I've got Josh Isenberg once again here in the Juice Box with me to go over the entire AEW Full Gear 2023 card, as we normally do for these pay-per-views or PLEs. As always, you can, first of all, for Josh Isenberg, follow him on Twitter at Josh Eisenberg4. You can follow me at Juicy Steen on Twitter, Juicy Wrestling Closet on Instagram, juicysteen.podbean.com. For this podcast, you can also go to Google Podcasts and find the Juice Box. Same with Apple Podcasts. And if you go to iTunes and you do listen to the Juice Box, please give this show 5 stars. Hey, drop a review if you'd like as well. Tell me some good stuff, some bad stuff, some random stuff. But the 5 stars does help this show move forward. So would really appreciate it. So yeah, AEW, big show tomorrow night. Full Gear, a lot of intrigue. A new signee potentially. We could maybe find out who the Devil is. Sting is wrestling with Edge against Christian in a same match with Ric Flair in a corner. A lot of crazy stuff is happening. So I'm really looking forward to the show tomorrow night. But as for the predictions, here's Josh and myself running the entire card down. So without further ado, here are the AEW Full Gear 2023 predictions with yours truly, Juice Springsteen, and the one, the only, Josh Eisenberg.
And here we are in the Juice Box. We got another straw in here today, and as is pretty commonplace for pre-pay-per-views, or PLEs as the kids say, we've got the one, the only, Josh Eisenberg here in the building.
I am excited to be here, Juice. I am excited to turn up to Full Gear to talk about the AEW event taking place this Saturday at the Kia Forum, a beautiful arena, an older arena, but looking forward to diving into this card, which has a lot to talk about.
It sure does. I'm half geared just thinking about it. Do you think that Brian Kay potentially could be at this show, considering he was third or fourth row at the Sacramento show a couple weeks ago?
He could potentially be there. I'm not sure if he will, though. Your father? Yeah, I'm not sure, because Sacramento is Northern California, so it's still a little
I know. It's
so.
Quite the. I lived there for a time. It's not really close, but I know that he was really. He had that Fire Canada sign front and center, along with a La Greca head, so I think he was prepared for anything.
Oh yeah,
but,
I hope he is. I hope that clown is. It'd be nice to see him.
That clown. You're still afraid of clowns? So yeah, this show is going to be interesting. I really dig the Southern California aspect of this. I feel like, on the flip side with WWE, as they're going to Berlin and Perth and France next year. AEW is not quite there yet. Of course, they've done Wembley. And I'm assuming they're going to go more international as time goes on. But I do like seeing them begin to do, more West Coast stuff. And they did Seattle for Wrestle Dream. And they're really kind of branching out across the United States. They've been to Canada. So I'm enjoying that they're really kind of giving these other spots a shot now. And I don't know. The Kia Forum, it is a classic venue. And I think they would call this a Big Four pay-per-view. Would you call that? I guess they've added Wrestle Dream, and they've had your Forbidden Door. But I would say this is probably your initial Double or Nothing, All Out, and Revolution, or your Big Four, quote unquote.
Yeah, this would kind of be, in my opinion, and not based on just time of the calendar year, but their Survivor Series. I think All Out was their their WrestleMania, right? You think,
Right.
but obviously now going into larger stadiums and venues like they did with Wembley, that could potentially overtake that just based on the size of it. But yeah, this is one of the big fours, and they've had some really strong full gears in recent memory the past couple of years. But I'm interested because I think. Not to say that I'm not as excited about this one because they always put on good shows, but you look at last year's show, they had a lot of matches. It was a very long show, I remember, but you had MJF and Mox. You had the big the William Regal insertion there, right? You had Samoa Joe and Wardlow. You had feuds that were really building up very well. And not to say that they haven't this event, and we can dive into the matches, but it seems like there's a secret sauce missing for this one, and I'm not sure what that is.
Huh. It's interesting you say that because I look at this card now and I see what is it? 8? Is it 8 matches plus the pre-show match, which has the world champion in it, so I'll count it as 9. Give it 9. Last year they had 3 pre-show matches, and then what is it? 4, 6, 7, 10. I think 10 additional. Yeah. So I think you say something's missing. I think that there's things on the show that could really kind of not even it out, but it's not going to – I don't think it's going to detract from the other stuff. I think it's going to boost the show. We'll get to it. And I'm just looking at last year's show. God, Chris Jericho retained the Ring of Honor World title. What are we – like a year has gone by and a lot has changed.
Yep.
To say the least. So let's get into it. Pre-show match, MJF and could be Samoa Joe, could be MJF by himself again against the Guns, who, again, man, consistency throughout wrestling is so important, I think, and longevity and storylines that last longer than a month really are beneficial to any company's success, let alone AEW, who's about to be in their 5th full year, not to be confused with Full Gear. And, the Guns, I would wager, along with, probably because of their, the faction, the Bang Bang Gang with Jay White and Juice Robinson, no relation to me, of course. They've been a mainstay, I would wager, since the debut of Collision back in June. Yep. And they've been around for quite a bit now, and I enjoy just, again, continuity and longevity. The Guns are damn good. I'm so glad it flipped how it flipped, where Billy went to the Acclaimed and kind of turned the Acclaimed into a 2023 DX, and the Guns flipped, and now they're heels on their own, doing their own thing, but really making a name for themselves, having one of the best entrances in the game, and be as it is with Ring of Honor and whatever's going on with that brand. The match still is intriguing because as MJF rolls along as a solo competitor without Adam, it's going to be tough for me to think that he can survive much longer as these tag champs. I'm going to say the Guns take this one regardless of who MJF's partner is. First, who do you think his partner is if he has one? And, of course, who do you think wins?
So I think it'll be either Samoa Joe or somehow, some way, Roderick Strong, and that's kind of just him sneaking his way into it. Yeah, but also it's interesting because I think the Guns should win, but I can't foresee MJF being on the losing end of something as his AEW World Champion at a pay-per-view, especially because this is going to be the first thing you see, and then you have 3-4 hours until he comes back on. So unless they want to do something or intertwine something throughout the show, maybe a backstage segment or two, which they typically don't do a lot of for AEW pay-per-views. It's pretty packed from, video package to match. Not a lot of backstage shenanigans go on during this. But if I had to guess, it's that, and I think the Guns should win, but I also can't see MJF losing, especially again being the champion main eventing another pay-per-view. But I think, when it comes down to it, these tag team titles are meaningless because, you already have the AEW tag team championships, which, we'll talk about that match kind of thrown together a bit, but there's just too many titles, too many, too many whys in AEW, and I think this is another one of those.
Yeah, I mean, everybody I feel like has done this with the Ring of Honor stuff. It sucks because Ring of Honor was a fantastic brand and name recognition for so long, and I don't know if it could have worked in an alternate universe of just Tony Khan owning the company and the name, but letting the people that initially or had been under the umbrella of running Ring of Honor up until it's being bought by TK. Why couldn't they just continue to run creative and all those things? And Tony Khan just literally owns it. Like they could still run kind of separately. The molding of Ring of Honor onto AEW TV and there's belts over here, there's belts over there. I'm getting confused. It's convoluted. It's a shame that that's what we are now delegated with or relegated to. But I see your point of saying MJF shouldn't lose. If it's Roddy, maybe they do continue. I think it'd be great to further that with Adam on the shelf. Apparently, we will get into a lot more deep dives later with that whole thing. But yeah, I can see where MJF retains the tag titles here, and of course, he's gonna be over like Rover. So
no doubt, LA's gonna love themselves their scumbag.
Of course, as we all do. Let's get into the main card. I don't know what type of order this is going to be. With WWE, it's not predictable, but it's almost more. It's easier to figure out. It's like sometimes they just throw the world title match on first, so you're getting something great. With AEW, there's so many interesting things they could start with. Do they want to start with fast action? Do they want to start with a title, something that there's like a guaranteed reaction? It's interesting to see what they're going to pick, but we're just going to run down based on what I'm seeing here in the card listing. So whichever comes first will be determined. Let's do Hikaru Shida versus Timeless Toni Storm with her butler, Luther. I love Timeless Toni Storm. This is a great gimmick. She's really embraced it. I am curious, will the match be featured in all black and white? Because if so... This is going to be the best thing of the show.
It's going to be hilarious. Yeah, it's not going to be like the red light from The Fiend or anything like that. It'll actually be kind of unique, right? But, I mean, I think you got to give Toni the title back. I was surprised she lost it to begin with a few months ago, and Hikaru Shida, now becoming the champion. And nothing against Hikaru Shida, but, the women's division in AEW needs more personalities. They don't need more, here's another indie gal that got signed and she can wrestle really well. They need more personalities that stand out. And I think Toni Storm separating herself from, Saraya and the Outcast was kind of surprising, I think, because it really felt like it was out of nowhere, right? Like you really didn't get this huge anticipation and huge payoff aside from what their match at All Out. But it comes to me to think that Timeless Toni is Tony Khan's prized possession in the women's division right now that's actively competing.
Absolutely.
And why not? She's embraced the character by being champion. I mean, you can continue this gimmick for months on end until somebody else breaks through and is the rightful competitor for her. But yeah, I think Toni picks up the championship here. I don't know if this starts, and I don't think it will, because women's matches typically don't start in AEW pay-per-view. But yeah, I think this match is going to be about 12 to 15 minutes bell to bell, where it's more character. You're not going to have a 5-star match. It's more character development for Toni in the ring.
Luckily, this is not an episode of Dynamite where I would just say that this match would take place at 9:30.
Exactly.
But it's kind of bizarre now that we're just talking about this. Maybe outside of Julia Hart, and that was based on her being a part of the House of Black and whatnot. Is Toni Storm the only woman that has like a true like gimmick, or am I missing something?
Pretty much a true gimmick,
and like it's a whole thing. So
yeah,
I agree. First of all, it's in Inglewood, it's Hollywood, it's LA. This is the perfect time for Toni Storm to take this, even though she's timeless. I think this is the absolute right moment to give her this title. And like you said, man, if let's say it's a black and white match or whatever, you can run all these types of things and keep elevating it as she's champion. I think if you have her lose this match. It's not guaranteed that it'll stifle her momentum, but for her character to grow, I think it's easier to do if she becomes a champion, because it's another layer, and now we can see how she's, even more maybe unapproachable because she is a champion now and she has to be pampered more.
Well, let me ask you this, and
Go ahead.
we might just transition and skip
That's
a couple
fine.
of matches on the card, but you said that, aside from her and Julia, who obviously Julia Hart has gotten into her own thing with, the House of Black, and I think she's done a tremendous job. The Sky Blue thing, is that working for you? Because now she's going to be in the match with Julia Hart and Statlander, but is that working?
To me, yes. And I will say it because of this. Sky Blue has been literally out of the blue sky, out of nowhere, like arriving on the scene. I would say maybe a year and a half, 2 years. I can't really recall when she first kind of came in. But she just has this like look to her. I know she's from Chicago, so like maybe I saw her more in those cards, so they kind of really showcased her more. But I really like her in ring. And this match, we will get to the match, but the triple threat with her, Julia, and Chris Statlander is fascinating to me. That now, Julia Hart hit Sky Blue with the mist, and it's kind of given Sky Blue an edge. Now, I don't know if Sky Blue will turn to Sky Black. I don't know if she's going to turn, entirely or join with Julia Hart, because in that match I see Chris Statlander as the outlier, and maybe Julia Hart and Sky Blue connecting and being a part of something.
I was thinking the same exact thing, that Sky Blue takes the bullet, or Sky Blue and Julia work together to take down Statlander, because look, I don't have a problem with Statlander at all. Her winning the TBS championship was primarily because Jade Cargill was going out the door and she was back and healthy. And I like Chris a lot.
Yeah, I think Chris Statlander is one of the more believable women on the roster in the company. So I didn't have a problem with her being the one to take it off Jade either. She's had her problems with injuries, so she couldn't be out there a lot, but now she's back. I think it was a good choice.
Exactly. So, but when I look at this match, I think you're right. I think you hit the nail right on the head that these two are in this match for a reason, and they have to come together because they've teased a little bit of Sky Blue being dark, right, with the face paint and everything. And I think that would be a great women's tag team that they can both work off of each other and learn, because they're both still very young.
Oh, absolutely.
I think Julia just turned like 21 years old, didn't she? I think she's
Sky Blue is very young as well. They honestly combined age is probably close to you or I solo.
Yeah, exactly. So I think the funny part about this match is, do they take the belt off of Statlander if Tony's going to win? Do you do two championship changes? Maybe not. So I think it's tough. I think Julia will win, but if I had to put my money on it, I think somehow Statlander gets away with the victory here.
Yeah, okay. So let's close up shop on Sheeta and Tony Storm. I'm going to say Tony Storm is going to win the title. I don't think there's going to be a win without, it being clean. I don't know if there's a DQ or not. So I'll say Tony Storm wins. What do you think? You think she takes the title?
Yeah, Tony Storm wins.
Okay, so then if that's the case, I would say that, I think Chris Statlander would benefit if Timeless Tony Storm wins, for Chris to retain. That being said, I still think that there's some sort of cohesion between Sky and Julia that could, deter it, and then further as time moves on. Like you said, if Sky takes the pin or eats a move that Julia was supposed to take, hell, maybe one of them takes a move from Chris and the other takes out Chris. Julia wins the title, and then Sky could be like, hey, I helped you, give me a shot. So there's a couple different ways you could go about it. I'm fascinated that, I don't know, kind of just happened upon that there's not that many gimmicks per se in the women's division, in the women's realm of AEW, but the ones that they do have are being shown here in pretty pivotal spots, both for the titles. So I'm gonna say Chris Statlander retains this, though. What do you say?
You know what? Be original. Be original. No.
All right. Yeah. If I'm gonna be original, if I had no. Look, if someone's gonna take it, give it to Sky Blue. I think she. I don't know if Julia Hart even needs a title. She's done great character work regardless, and I think Sky Blue's meant for the women's division a lot longer. just as a
Yeah.
wrestler straight up instead of just, not
Yeah.
that Julian is just a manager, just like a piece
No,
of
I
the
know what
puzzle.
you mean. Yeah, I know what you mean.
You know.
If you're gonna do that personality and stuff like that with Timeless Tony, you don't necessarily need like two over the top personalities holding championships, right? Like, so I get that. And that's why I think somehow, some way, Statlander wins, but I don't think it's the end of Julia and Sky somehow coming together after. So, but when you think about it, this is probably the first time in a while that the women's matches are more intriguing and not rushed or really thrown together. So I like that aspect.
I know.
Of
I can't believe we've spent so much time on these two matches.
I know. We still got 8 more, 10 more, 12 more.
I know. 15 more hours of this pay-per-view.
Wait.
Let's get into a bunch of guys on one match. 4-way tag match. Ricky Starks and Big Bill versus Dralistico and Roosh versus FTR versus the Kings of the Black Throne. A lot plays into this. We can kind of connect it to the another tag match between the Golden Jets and the Young Bucks, arguably the more interesting tag match, where the Young Bucks already have an AEW World Title or World Tag Title opportunity, but if the Golden Jets were to win, they get a tag title shot instead of the Young Bucks. So it kind of is interesting to me because now I'm thinking, well, whoever wins this Fatal 4-Way, is that tag title opportunity from the Bucks or the Jets, is that next? And if so, if it's FTR, it makes sense for the Young Bucks to take that. If it's the Golden Jets, it could be any of these teams. Yeah. So I really don't know. To me, I like Ricky Starks and Big Bill as a team. I really do. I'm inclined to say they retain, but if I don't give Julia Hart the title, I wouldn't hate Malachi and Brody King taking the AEW World Tag Titles here. I think they were kind of pegged as this, trio for a while, which is fine, and the House of Black's great, but I think you can really travel a different way here and give Malachi and Brody, who you talk about gimmicks in AEW, they have one of the best entrances in AEW, and it would behoove of AEW to potentially, give them a title, give them more shine each week, more TV time, get those entrances, and be more of a spectacle on TV each week. So ultimately, I'm going to take Malachi and Brody to take these titles. Who you got in this?
Okay, I like that. So I think Ricky Starks and Big Bill retain. Roosh and Dralistico, I think, good tag team. Not a lot there right now in terms of them taking the championships. They're kind of like the Lucha Brothers whenever they were just thrown into matches because of how good they were. And that's not a discredit to them at all. They just they bring another level of entertainment to a wrestling match. FTR right now does not need to regain those championships. I think the good stuff with FTR is when they're chasing, not when they're the champions. And then also the Kings of the Black Throne. I think with those two, I like what they do, but there's just been some inconsistency over the past 4 or 5 months with them, I feel. They appear, they don't appear, they don't do much, they do a lot. Like there's just never a level of like consistent booking with them. So I think with Ricky Starks and Big Bill, they kind of threw them together. They gave them the titles, but if they take the titles away so quickly, I feel that their reign would be completely meaningless. And with a guy like Ricky Starks right now, he's had matches with MJF already, and he's had matches for higher championships, but he's kind of floating a little bit into obscurity. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but he's a big piece of Collision, but he's not like the only piece of Collision that people want to see. Does that make sense? Because I think Collision does such a great job at spotlighting main events like a Danielson match, or even with Edge, whenever he has his matches, and obviously with Sting and Darby. Ricky kind of is like second and third tier right now on that show, and I don't know why. So I think him being tag team champion gives him more credit and gives him just a little bit more of a push to still be one of those guys.
That's exactly what I was going to say. It's like a little bit more of a boost. Like, I don't know how many times us as wrestling fans analyze and talk about, does the belt make the guy or does the guy make the belt? And not even that, to a different extent, it's, does this guy need a title, or can he kind of satisfy what he needs to do creatively on his own? In this case, Starks is one of the better guys, I think, all across AEW, let alone, in a certain division, tag or singles or whatever. And I like the Big Bill, HBK, Diesel thing they got going on.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think that, yeah, you're right. Being a champion, no matter what type of champion that it is, gives him that little bit more legitimacy. And like I mentioned, even if they gave it to Malachi and Brody King, whoever the titles are on, they're going to be featured more. They're going to have more opportunities. They're going to have title defenses, and I definitely can see that. And kind of because they've won the title so recently, I kind of see where you're coming from. I would, I'm leaning towards Malachi and Brody King, but I would not be shocked whatsoever if there's just a retain of the tag titles here between Big Bill and Ricky Starks.
Ricky Starks, yeah.
So yeah, that's about. I don't know. It'll be an interesting match. Fatal 4-way. I don't know. Luckily, so normally there's like 7 tag matches on an AEW pay-per-view. We have a 4-way tag, a regular tag, and we have a 6-man tag.
There's a lot going on. This kind of reminds me of WrestleMania 2000 a little bit, right? Almost every match was.
Yeah. I know. No match was a single match.
Yep.
Which. Whew.
Wow.
Let's get to another tag, though. The Golden Jets, we mentioned this earlier, versus the Young Bucks. If the Golden Jets win, they will receive the AEW World Tag Title opportunity that the Young Bucks currently have. But if the Bucks are victorious, the Golden Jets must disband, even though they've been a team for longer than Y2AJ, but just by a few weeks.
Just by a bit. So
I don't know how big of this. Oh, they got to disband as a team. Can you imagine? This long-term team is going to be ripped apart.
Oh my gosh.
The Young Bucks are very close to being heels. Very close.
Well, they won via heel on Dynamite.
They did, and I think it's going to be almost impossible for them to make a full turn and at Full Gear, considering they're from California. So that's almost impossible. Yeah. But depending on the way that they win, if they were to, I think, especially because Kenny Omega's in the match, and even if the Young Bucks are the most popular tag team, you could argue in AEW, I think Kenny Omega is almost a more beloved overall commodity in AEW because, let's face it, Kenny Omega is the top wrestler that AEW has that has never been in WWE. He is the AJ Styles in TNA, before he went to WWE. He's never been there, and he's the highest profile guy that they have, and that's across the board. I do not see a lot of WWE fans saying that Kenny Omega isn't great. I think that the respect is there across any fandom. Yet I don't see Kenny Omega and Chris Jericho going much further as a tag team. I don't know if this was just set up for this match. I just see the Young Bucks getting an AEW World Tag Title opportunity and maintaining it. However, if the Golden Jets do win, I think that's where you do see a full-fledged Young Bucks heel turn. Because damn, imagine them turn. You want to get the California crowd against the Young Bucks? Have them beat up Kenny Omega. That would be one hell of a turn. So I'm gonna say, the Golden Jets win, but at the cost of a potential Young Bucks heel turn on Kenny Omega, which would be a really intriguing story going forward. What do you think?
I wonder if the Young Bucks will turn on Kenny and if that'll actually work with the AEW crowd. Because they just know. You know what I mean? Like they're smart and they know that.
True.
This is a tough one. This is kind of a coin flip for me. I think the Young Bucks win. I don't think there's a specific heel turn of sorts. I think if anything, the Bucks cheat to win, and there's some dissension after the fact with them and Kenny. Not necessarily to the point where they break up. Yeah. Where they're like cheat to beat Kenny or cheat to beat Jericho. But I think this match, this is going to be a fun match. I think you don't see Kenny facing off against the Bucks often, so their styles mesh so well, but you just don't see it often, so it's kind of fresh to us. We've seen them, in the past, but not consistently. I think you had Kenny and Hangman against the Bucks, and that was a great match a couple of years ago. But yeah, I'm gonna go with Kenny, and I'm gonna go with Jericho not winning, but also the Young Bucks not full-fledged turning heel. I still think there's time. And also, the Young Bucks can still have their championship match. And I don't know if they cash it in 2, 3, 4 weeks. But I also don't think they wait until Revolution. So I think this might be just a match that has stipulation because they tried to make us care more about that than anything else because it was so quickly thrown together.
Yeah, you make good points there. I can't really argue too much. Yeah, it's interesting. Depending on whoever wins this, whoever has the tag title opportunity, it'd be interesting to see when they do cash that in, if that's how it's going to go
Yeah.
down. Now, if the Golden Jets have to disband, does that mean Jericho goes back to being heel and turns on Kenny, or like, do you see any sort of, because it's either the Golden Jets break up and what, just like that's it? Like again, there's not a lot of fanfare so far, so it's kind of weird for them to disband. So it kind of makes me feel like there's more of an angle that's gonna happen.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. I'll be honest with you. I wouldn't necessarily hate having Jericho take like a month or two off and come back in January.
Yeah.
You know, I
Yeah.
think he's done so much, so consistently, and so great
Oh yeah.
that it wouldn't hurt for them to take a quick pause and figure out how he wants to be when he comes back. He doesn't need to reinvent himself, but I mean,
You know he will though.
and he will, yeah. But
Yeah, he can.
it gets to a point, I think, where you're like, okay, Jericho, we know what you're doing, we know what you've done. Just take a quick timeout. So whether they write him off in terms of injury or he kind of just is gone after this pay-per-view, I wouldn't be against that.
It's a write off for them.
They just write it off.
Write it off. You don't even know what a write off is.
Do you?
No, I don't. All right, let's get into. We got 4 matches left. Let's tackle. I believe this is the second match between these two: Jon Moxley versus Orange Cassidy. Singles match, AEW International Title. These two had a match, I believe, at All Out, and it was very, very entertaining. For a guy that, you know, man, when Orange Cassidy first came into AEW, I know wrestling's fake, wink, wink, but this is like ridiculous, you know? And I'm like, can't you just suspend disbelief for all wrestling and just have fun with it? And lo and behold, he's been one of the most consistently over quality. Hold on.
You are on fire right now with your opinions. So
fire.
I mean, I completely
fire.
understand that. Well, as your house part's done right now.
Oh no, I think it's done. It's done. It's all good. Okay, cool. Someone turned it off.
There you go.
Anyway, as I was saying, Orange Cassidy has been the most consistent character in ring, defending the title like that you could ever ask for. I think that he has paid off any sort of doubt raised by his shtick, which I don't know if you could have told me that as whenever he came in that's what would be the case.
Yeah.
Orange Cassidy's shtick is so, polished, yet when the bell rings and he's really in there, ask any of these guys, he really brings it. And I think him and Jon Moxley bring a lot to the table and could have a great match again. And I know that Mox had to drop the title because he got hurt, and it all kind of ended up back to Orange Cassidy. So to me, this is screaming Jon Moxley getting this title back and potentially restarting, a run that he was trying to have at the beginning of the fall. But I see nothing but a great match here between these two guys. And to play off the shtick thing one more time, and we'll talk about Sting in a little bit. When you have Sting, who is as old school can be, who's done this for damn near 35 years, on like being the first guy to initiate the Orange Cassidy kicks and that shtick on the outside of the ring, and like play along with it, and as if it's so legit, I think that he's widely respected and that like you can look past whatever the gimmick is. And I don't know. I really like Orange Cassidy, and I'm glad that he's had this spot in AEW. He's defended that title a lot more than Roman Reigns has defended his title. So be that as it may. Right. You're telling me something I don't know. Jon Moxley, I do think, regains this thing. What are your thoughts?
I think Moxley regains this thing as well. And the biggest reason, I think, is what I saw on Dynamite this past week when Mox pinned Hook clean. When Mox pinned clean Hook, pinned Hook clean. It said to me that, Moxley is still revered as one of their top guys. And as much as Cassidy has been fantastic, as much as Hook has been pretty good, albeit disappointing the past couple of months with just his lack of creative and booking. Like, I don't know what they're doing with him. I think that Tony is saying to himself, Moxley as a champion is better for the overall product than Orange Cassidy as champion. And you see the BCC not really be a thing, but they kind of are, but they're not really doing much with them. This could be a way to revitalize them if they want to have Mox become the international champion. And again, it doesn't hurt Cassidy because Cassidy has done so much with that title and he's defended it so many times previously. It's like, what's next for Cassidy in this title? And I don't dislike the fact that he's defended it so much, but I don't love how he's defended it so much, because when you defend it 10, 15, 20 times and it's like every week and every 2 weeks, it's kind of like, okay, he's defeated so many people. Like, what else can he do with this title? Right. So I think that's why I think Moxley gives this a little bit of energy in this championship, and he's going to pick up the victory at Full Gear.
Yeah, I can't disagree with that. Like you said, it's good that Orange Cassidy's defending it a lot, but then it's not that he gets stale, but it's like, well, it's almost like you reach a ceiling, and it's not necessarily Gunther where it's a huge challenge to defeat Orange Cassidy. You can, he's not impossible to beat, so it's a little different than Gunther in that respect. But yeah, I do think it's time to switch it up a bit, give Mox the strap. Orange Cassidy can go do something else. I'm sure, he could take some time off probably. Both these guys, honestly, are like two of the big workhorses in AEW. They're always reliable. They're always there. They're always in big matches almost every single week or month. And, maybe Cassidy takes some time off and get a different denim pants jacket combo for the next show.
A little Canadian tuxedo. Nice buttons. They're snaps, but yeah.
They're snaps. I'll take Jon Moxley here.
Nice.
We got 3 more to go. Let's tackle this match, another sequel match. Yet, even though this match could potentially end very, very, violently, I don't anticipate this being the final match between these two men. Hangman Adam Page, Swerve Strickland with Prince Nana. This has been as blood feud as a blood feud can get, considering Swerve Strickland entered Hangman's house and cut a promo on his child as he was sleeping. So this is pretty intense. Hangman got a little bit of receipt back, and he took Strickland through the table with the dead eye off the stage. This is a Texas death match. Now, if you are a historian like me, nerd, you will know that personally, my favorite Texas death match, and I think the standard of all standards in this regard, happened 30 years ago in October of '93. Vader and Cactus Jack in a crazy Texas death match at Halloween Havoc. I don't know if the rules are going to be necessarily the same because they were a little convoluted in '93, but I do know that the violence in this match will probably be on par, if not crazier, than it was back in '93 in WCW. I love both these guys. Hangman's already been a world champion. If Swerve keeps going like he is, I don't see why he can't be world champion very soon rather than later. These are two of the guys I think you really can continue to build around as AEW stalwarts. They might not be quote unquote pillars, but I do think that they are guys you can trust in a huge spot like this. And this is almost the de facto number one contendership to me. Yet, like I said, I think there's a third match. I think I'm going to say Hangman wins this match by hook or by crook. No hook interference, though. And I think they do somehow have a third match. Now, Texas Death Match is pretty damn crazy. I don't know if you do a dog collar, any sort of third match potentially, but I see one hell of a match. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's going to be one hell of a match, too. I think people are going to be talking a lot about this match, good, bad, and different, but I think it's going to be really, really good. Whenever I look at this feud, I see everything you want in a feud. The only critique that I have is this feud is supposed to be serious, correct? Like, this is a serious feud right now, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so the only thing that I wish that they would have done differently over the past few weeks is when it hit that escalation point whenever Strickland went into the home, or maybe even last night, Wednesday night on Dynamite. Even on Wednesday night on Dynamite, I just didn't really think that Prince Nana needed to be dancing like he dances, because it just doesn't make Strickland look like he is that serious, because that dance is so ridiculous. Like he comes out, dances, and then Hangman says something, and then he makes that little dance move in the ring whenever he's already trying to talk serious to Strickland. Like, he needs to read the room. I don't think that's a good factor, and that's a good part of Strickland.
This is why I have you on the show, because I disagree. I think I think that Prince Nana, I think that is the point. I think that is the intended point, is that Hangman and Swerve are in literally a blood feud where they both despise, they hate each other. Prince Nana, he is involved. He's the guy, he's Swerve's manager. He's around with them. He's causing havoc, for Swerve and what have you. And I know Hangman took shots at Nana as well. I think that because these two guys are so serious, Prince Nana is just trying to throw off Hangman. He's not going to take him seriously. He doesn't think Hangman's very serious, and why should he? He's not the one that has to wrestle him. Swerve Strickland has to be the one. Sure. And I think Swerve takes this very seriously. Now, I do have a little bit of a gripe with last night, or the other night, but it was not what you said. Hangman really drove home a lot to Swerve about, his girl leaving him and all these other problems that he's had. And Swerve really didn't get a rebuttal. Yeah. So I think that could have been an issue. However, they're probably just going to have that rebuttal in the ring, and you're going to see a lot more in the ring. There's only so much you could promote for this match, but yeah, I get where you're coming from of like, he should be taking this more seriously, but I kind of think it's just, this is a Swerve Hangman thing. And even though Nana is the manager, that doesn't mean he has to be as serious. I think he's just going to be, goofing off, because he doesn't take it. And that's why I think Hangman's going to, he might take out Prince Nana in this match if Nana gets in the way, which would really be cool to see that comeuppance.
No, I understand that. I understand what you mean. I think, and when I look at picking a winner, it's like, do you pick Hangman, who I think is, obviously the good guy here, even though people still kind of cheer for Swerve? Do you pick Swerve? Man, that's tough. I'm going to lean towards Hangman, but I don't think I'd be surprised if Swerve wins for two reasons. One, he's never been a world champion material, and this is probably the most they've invested in him in AEW. And two, I personally know that Tony Khan loves Swerve Strickland from sources that I've heard. Like, he just thinks Swerve is the absolute best. And look, hey, if you think he's the best, great. It's even better if Swerve knows that the owner of the company thinks he's the best. So.
Well, that, and then and to your point, if he legitimately thinks that, then why shouldn't he push him? Why shouldn't he get, if you believe in a guy and this is your company, I don't see why not. And it's clear that Hangman's really highly thought upon by a lot, if not all, in AEW, considering his huge run as a babyface to win the title and all the stuff he had to go through with the CM Punk of it all. And so I think, regardless, I think both these guys are really on a trajectory upward for sure. But I'm going to take Hangman here. I really do think that they kind of extend this to a potential third match. Maybe that's a blow off on a Dynamite. Although they are having the World's End pay-per-view at the end of the year. So
that's true. I forgot about that.
That could be something to where you end the feud, you end the year with something crazy. And it's also been speculated that, with the MJF and the Devil, we'll get into all that in a little bit. But with all these guys, Joe, Wardlow, all these guys going after MJF and wanting MJF's title, I know that they're not going to do an elimination chamber match, but do you think that there is some sort of match to where you could have multiple guys in a gimmick match that's not a copy and it's not just a fatal five-way? Because you could do a Swerve, Hangman, MJ. You could have 5 or 6 of these guys that are at the tippy top, all vying at the end of the year, especially since the MJF 2024 stuff. Although I think it's pretty set in stone where he's staying, is going to come up, and is he going to lose the title before his contract? Do you think there's room for a big match like that? And if so, do you think they come up with something new or? Man,
that's a good question. I don't know. That's so hard to think about because I really do. I really hope they come up with something different and unique, but I really don't want them to just fall back on another tournament. And it's funny because I'm a tournament
They're
guy.
ending.
Like I used to love it, but they're adding. I mean, every month or two there's a new tournament.
There's a tournament like their own little mini like
G1
pseudo G1 that's going to end at World's End. So
yeah, you can't do two tournaments at once, I guess. But yeah, I mean, I think if they could create something unique and different. Something where all guys get
King of the Mountain, baby. King of the Mountain match.
Maybe King of the Mountain. Who the hell knows? But yeah. So did you pick Hangman or did you pick Swerve for this match?
I picked Hangman because Swerve had the first win, so I assumed.
Okay, so you're gonna do a third and final, which, as you mentioned before we started this conversation of these two, is what match can be better than a Texas Death Match?
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see where they go. If Swerve wins this, again, I don't know what happens with Hangman, but if Hangman wins this, I don't know what happens with Swerve. Like, both of these guys kind of need the win, right? Like,
yeah,
it's interesting. It's a coin flip.
You say that, but Hangman. See, that's the thing. Hangman has been to the top. He's been world champion, and I think he's trying to get back there. I don't think if he loses, he's gonna lose his way necessarily. But I think there's a lot more on the line for Swerve. Right? Yeah. Oh, it's been quite a long time since he's been champion for sure. Yeah. So I mean, look, we can predict Damian Priest is going to cash in every month and be wrong. So this will probably be yeah. So who knows what will happen in between those two? 2 matches to go. This one I'm looking forward to almost as much as the main event. The main event, of course, for a lot of reasons, but Nick Wayne, Christian Cage, Luchasaurus, the Patriarchy versus Adam Copeland, Darby Allin, and Sting with Ric Flair. Ric Flair's going to be in this match as a corner man. I hope he doesn't take a bump, although I'm sure he's cleared.
He's taking a bump. He's taking a bump.
He's taking a bump. He's going to blade. It's going to be fantastic. This is such a crazy match, man. You have WCW, AEW, and WWE with a NWA manager versus a TNA, AEW original, and then a brand new upstart Nick Wayne. I love it. I don't know how we got here, but I love now that we're getting this pronounced Sting final run. It sucks that, it couldn't happen before. Like, so many guys. Hell, Adam Copeland, a guy in this match, already retired and was, we all were like, man, wouldn't it have been nice for him to at least know maybe I only have so much to do before I really have to hang it up? And it just was abrupt. Now Sting, who kind of had a similar thing, he didn't necessarily retire, but he was like, I'm not wrestling. I shouldn't be wrestling. And that was in 2015. We are now well past that. 8 years later, he can wrestle. He's done crazy things. And it's set in stone that next Revolution in March of 2023, it's going to be the end of Sting's career, which I like because you're going to celebrate him more. You really can give it all to him, and it's not going to be is he really going to retire? Because even though Ric Flair's in this match, I really truly think Sting will hang it up in ring at Revolution. So with that all being said, I love that he gets to tag with a guy like Adam Copeland. Flair's going to be there. Christian, I love this. I see nothing but Sting, Darby, and Adam Copeland getting the win in a really fun match. All these entrances are going to be great. Maybe we get to see Adam Copeland with some Sting face paint. Wouldn't that be cool?
Oh, that'd be pretty interesting. Yeah, for sure. I think you're right, though. I think the biggest thing with this match is it's going to be fun. It's going to be interesting because I can kind of see Christian somehow picking up the win, but I just can't fathom Sting losing at all. Has he ever lost in AEW? I don't think so.
That is a very good question.
I don't think so.
If that's the case, then he's going to have to face Goldberg at Revolution.
Streak versus streak. Yeah, right. He's definitely going to face Goldberg. Maybe that's the mystery signing. Who knows? But no, I like Darby, Copeland, and Sting in this match. I think it's going to be fun. I think you're right. It's going to be something that is the beginning of the end for Sting's career. And what better way than having him do some crazy spots like he's done, but also with Ric Flair on the outside, and the opportunity I think is great for Sting. Just he's continuing to be creative. He's continuing to be in matches with people he's never even known before or has never even stepped in the ring with before. So kudos to them. It's going to be a fun match either way.
You get Adam Copeland and Christian like face to face, like in a
Yeah,
match. How many times
have we? Yeah.
we've wanted this for so like it's just so many little things that they're just like, here you go, you can have it. You can have all these great moments. Now you did mention something now earlier before we kind of dove into this card. You said, something's missing, all right, with this show. Now we'll get to the main event in just a moment, but something that was announced by Tony Khan. Thankfully, it wasn't an announcement promoting an announcement on Dynamite or Collision or Rampage or Honor Club. This was an announcement on Twitter saying, hey, we will, and I've already signed, a new signee, a free agent, someone that, the AEW fans apparently already respect. Mm-hmm. And it's someone that, again, free agent. And I think they said they're going to sign the contract at Full Gear. I'm assuming the contract's already done, whatever, but who is it? I am going to give two guesses. I'm going to give Mercedes Moné. Mm-hmm. I think that is a very, very easy call. Yes. It was in New Japan since leaving WWE, got injured. It's been a while since she's done anything, and I think this is like a perfect time to do something like that. And maybe that comes into play with your three-way for the TBS title, in which we already said Sky Blue and Julia Hart were kind of two sides of the same coin. Maybe Moné kind of throws a wrench into those plans. But I think her, or potentially, and I know there's some holes that could be poked in it because they said that his contract is going to be up in February, I believe, of next year. But Will Ospreay, someone that's already really been established as having great matches in AEW, great match at All In with Jericho, I thought, and has been kind of not a mainstay, but it's been on AEW TV quite a bit over the last couple of months. Either way, either of those would be a hell of a choice. Do you think it's either of those, or do you see some potential out of left field free agent we're not thinking of that you've been thinking of as the new assignee to AEW?
Yeah, I think it's going to be Will Ospreay, and I'll be happy for AEW, but disappointed for Ospreay because I think, man, if he went to WWE, I think he'd be treated like AJ Styles. And when Styles got there, people were skeptical how he would be treated, and lo and behold, he's been multiple time WWE champion, has been in big storylines. Yeah. He had the Undertaker's last match, so he's and his WrestleMania card is second to none at this point of his career. So, but this is about AEW, not WWE, and I think Ospreay is the best fit. I'm not gonna lie, I really, really do think that there is still a chance that we see Sasha Banks back in WWE sooner rather than later. Sooner rather than later, and I think it's because we're seeing a lot of women getting opportunities in WWE that may not have before. And I think that's very desirable for Mercedes Moné to potentially do with her friends there, with her seeing how the women are being treated with the addition of Jade Cargill. I think seeing a Sasha Charlotte match now is completely different than it was 4 years ago. So when I think about the overall picture, that's why I slightly do not lean towards Mercedes being the reveal, even though I wouldn't be surprised if she was. I just feel this is tailor-made more for a guy like Will Ospreay, who's been on AEW TV, but has also been that guy that's been flirting with free agency, and I'm sure Tony opened up his checkbook to keep him on AEW television.
I find it fascinating that you think that we'll see Sasha Banks potentially back in WWE sooner than later.
A long shot, but you never know.
It's I would say it's a long shot only because it really hasn't been that long since she's been in WWE. I do think that there's even more avenues to go down to travel, whether it be in AEW or New Japan once she's healthy again. And yeah, you are right in saying that. This person and this, anybody going to WWE now, it seems like, they're getting, these chances, these opportunities. Two things. Who's to say that if Sasha would, or, Mercedes Sasha would go to WWE, who's to say she couldn't just be lost in that shuffle if they've already built up a ton of talent to that point? Because it's it's a pretty loaded roster on both Raw and SmackDown in the women's division as it stands right now. I think I mentioned last week or a couple weeks ago that I really think they could pull off another Evolution pay-per-view now that it's been 5 years since the original one, an all-women's pay-per-view. I think you can absolutely pull that off and not necessarily lean on a lot of legends for it, and it'd be a damn good show. So that point of would she be lost in the shuffle potentially, but I also think that this is a case of Jericho or Adam Copeland. I don't think if Mercedes Moné went to AEW that the road would be, nullified to ever go back to WWE. I think she could easily go to AEW and have a great run, couple years, and if things go a certain way and she wants to go back to WWE, I have a hard time thinking, especially because Triple H is at the helm now, that they would not look at bringing Sasha Banks back, because she's so charismatic and it's such a huge positive in the women's division for a lot of years in WWE, and I don't think they could ever forget that. So I think they'd welcome her back with open arms, regardless. So I'm leaning towards Mercedes Moné. Did you think it could be anybody outside of those two? Her and Ospreay?
Yeah, probably not. I mean, I try to wrap my brain around it like a guy like I think you put Cardona out there on Next as a joke, which I thought was pretty funny. Yeah, I don't think so. I think the way the tweet was worded, you have very few people there. So those will probably be my two options if I had to, plunk down $100 on something.
Yeah, it's interesting. It all depends on when they put it in the show. Like, is it going to be Tony and this person in the ring? Are they going to announce them? Like, is it going to be after a match? I'm curious as to the placement, because it almost seems when it happens, really dictates, if it's after a certain match, are there guys or girls still in the ring or at the ringside area? Is that going to, immediately begin a feud with whoever signs in? So we'll see. But that's not the only potential surprise happening at Full Gear. Let's get into the big one. MJF. Apparently he's the AEW World Champion, but he doesn't have his belt anymore. So I guess he's challenging Jay White for the Triple B. I don't know. You say Will Ospreay would be like the AJ Styles in WWE. I also think Jay White would do well in WWE. I think he'd actually do better in WWE than he is doing right now in AEW. I know that might not be a popular opinion, but I think Jay White has some charisma that a lot of people give him credit for. And I know it's different. It's tough to say that because he's been supplemented with the Bang Bang Gang and Juice and the Guns and got a great supporting cast. So I really don't want to just say that it's all them and not him. But I think he's done a solid job. And quite frankly, whether to take this negatively or not, this might be one of the only chances Jay White gets in the main event spot of an AEW pay-per-view for the world title. I think a lot of this kind of, I don't know how much of the Adam Cole thing, whether it's a work or not, affected any of these plans. Especially, I mentioned it earlier, with MJF being from Long Island and that show happening in December, World's End in Long Island. To me, it really seemed like they were planning for something bigger. They still could roll with whatever at that show, but I think this show could have been something that clearly led into it, depending on where they were with the Adam Cole stuff. So whatever, this is where we're at now. And maybe just me being an old wrestling fan, but traditionally, MJF got his ass beat at the end of Dynamite. So I think he's going to get back he's going to get the Triple B back at the show. We'll get into the last little aspect after you give your prediction, but I'm going to take MJF to retain the title here.
I'm going to take MJF to retain as well. I completely agree with the Jay White situation. I think this might be his only real chance to be in a main event. This is just kind of, I don't know, lackluster to me. I like the Guns. I don't like Juice Robinson. I think the Bang Bang Gang is just, I don't know. It's hard to explain why I just personally don't mind or don't care if they're on my television. And that says something because MJF has made me care about a lot of other people that I didn't typically care about before. Even the Ricky Starks of the world's like, I know that Ricky Starks is charismatic and good, but I really didn't get that, piss and vinegar until, he was really with MJF and locking horns with him on the mic. I don't get that from anybody in the Bang Bang Club. The Guns are great wrestlers. I think they're very they're going to be really good for a really long time. And I think Jay White has some untapped charisma that I like. But again, as a whole, don't love him. MJF wins. But as you said, this win might not necessarily be the full story of the evening for this match. So do you expect that the devil in the mask appears and shows themselves?
In short, yes. And I have a couple theories. I'm not going to try to make it too crazy.
Go ahead.
I do think that we see the devil. There's some questions. Are we going to see, like, are the guys or girls that were with the devil that have attacked everybody who they've attacked so far, which has been damn near everyone, are they going to reveal themselves? And if so, are they already in AEW? What does that mean? The real interesting thing, and I saw this the other day, and I'll pose it to you. We did just talk about the signee. Well, I don't know what the hell I was talking about. The signee, the newest free agent. Do you think there's an outside chance that that person is actually MJF because he's someone that, quote unquote, gets the respect of the fans now because he's their scumbag, and it's kind of flipped on its head, the heel face dynamic with him, to where that happens and it's all great and everybody's thrilled, and then the devil's revealed and it could be Adam Cole, and really go forward with something crazy.
That's interesting.
I'll ask you point blank, who is the devil? I'll tell you who I don't think it is. I don't think it's CM Punk.
Yeah, neither do I.
Although we all can agree that would be the greatest work in the history of professional wrestling, but that's just not happening. So who do you
So you think it's going to be Adam Cole, who's actually not hurt, and the newest signing is basically just a re-signing of it. Could be a re-signing.
Well, because of the bidding war, because they've been saying he's been saying the bidding war, but as time's gone on, it's almost very clear that he's going to stick with AEW because he's so loyal and he's damn good, and they would be insane to not give him whatever he wants money wise. So I'm sure they are going to sign off.
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know who the devil is, and that sucks because I typically have like a general. I have a general feel. Yeah. I would honestly say it could be Adam Cole. But I feel like he actually is hurt. So
yeah, I agree. But let's poke holes in it. When Britt shows off the photos and stuff of whatever, like none of them were like real surgery. I don't know if they didn't have to show real surgery photos, but like, I don't know. It didn't seem so concrete. Maybe again, this is maybe just me trying to look into it and hoping it's just a work. But if it's not Adam Cole, here's the thing: no matter who it is, it has to be so. Like, right. It has to be on. It has to be perfect. It has to, like, the fans have to be satisfied with this. You do not build up this and have the devil ruin all these things and attack, MJF and all his friends, and for it to be lackluster. So I don't know. It's gotta be someone big.
It's gotta be someone that makes sense too. Yeah.
Here's another thing. Could the devil be MJF?
No, I don't think it's MJF.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm not confident in this at all, but I'm gonna go with Adam Cole because I don't think it's a. Wow. I don't think. Yeah. Man.
I love how you just talked yourself into. You know what? I think he's really hurt. You know what? I think he's the devil.
It's tough
within
because
5 seconds.
Yeah, but like so the reason being I thought is because the Jay White and MJF thing kind of came out of nowhere, and the Roderick Strong thing kind of came out of nowhere. So maybe Adam has been hurt, and the devil thing is just a way for him to prolong his injury where he can recover, but it might not have been as bad as it was, right? So maybe he's only been off TV for a month or two, and that's all they needed. And they put somebody in the mask saying, hey, this is, we can put anybody in the mask that kind of looks like Adam Cole, has a similar body, or put a bodysuit on him. Like, that doesn't mean anything.
They can edit around that stuff for sure. You're perfect.
So maybe they said like, hey, we have a few months and we have this person kind of stalking MJF while everybody tries to go for his championship, and then it ends up becoming Adam Cole. And I don't think it's a coincidence that Adam Cole and Britt Baker have been off TV together.
Yeah. But see, at the same time, I'm like, okay, well, it would make sense. He has to recover, and she got to take care of him. Like I
True.
just buy it all. I buy
True.
all of that.
Yeah,
It's
because you're a mark.
well, and everything is a work. So I also don't buy it. I buy it and I don't buy it. I hate it, but I love it.
We're out of Merlot.
It's amazing. The fact that we're doing this where we're just all over the place. Talk about getting Damian Priest wrong. It could be someone we're not even thinking about. Some people have speculated it could be Tony Khan as the devil. I don't know if I want to see
ridiculous.
that,
That's ridiculous.
but as ridiculous as it would be, social media would be ablaze, and that would be something that they would want. But would it be something that they want more than just that night for the reaction? I don't know. I don't know if they want to push that button yet of having TK on TV weekly. I don't know.
So do you think it's revealed today or this weekend?
I
don't think it is. I think we still have a little bit of time.
When do you think a pay-per-view is the right time to reveal it, or do you think they could do it on Dynamite? Because
no, it has
the pay-per-view is the big setup for. But if you announce, you're not going to announce it ahead of time on Dynamite to get a rating, so it's almost pointless.
Yeah. Maybe they have to. Yeah, you know what? Maybe they have to reveal them. Because AEW every pay-per-view typically has a surprise of some sorts, right? So maybe, but maybe they lean their surprise on, is this going to be outshadowed by the signing of Mercedes or Will Ospreay? Like, do you want to put many surprises on one show? I mean, they've done it before.
Oh my God.
Obviously.
They debuted Adam Cole and Brian Danielson
back to back. Yeah, exactly.
So they could do anything.
They've done it before. I think they should. I wouldn't be surprised if they prolong it, because if it is actually Adam Cole, I think they give it a little bit more time, and maybe MJF continues to go through this until the next pay-per-view at the end of the year. That's only 6 weeks away, and that's when you can reveal it. It's the what's it called again?
World's End.
World's End. Okay, yeah.
Yes.
So World's End is you end the year with a bang of Adam Cole coming back and being the devil. I think that does more, because then it gives you even more time for him to recover and recuperate for a potential match at Revolution.
True, but I do think it sets up, if it's Adam Cole and he has had all this time to heal. Here's the thing. When it first happened, I was like, oh my God, he's injured because he jumped off the ramp, and it was very obvious. Yeah. Yet he could be injured and it not be, quote, I broke it 3 different places. That seemed a little not believable, but who's to say what happened? But if it's not as bad, and they, hey, we can kind of salvage this thing, let him get healed, and then, because if it's Adam Cole as the devil and MJF goes against Adam Cole in Long Island, whenever MJF is the biggest face that they have, I think that is a huge match. If that is how it goes. Now, something they could do without revealing the devil is the devil coming out after the match, beating up MJF, holding up the title and saying, it's the devil versus MJF at the show at World's End, and there you find out who
the devil is. Yeah, that's a good point. That would be good too. And lastly, what I would say, which again, just based purely on timing and recovery, what happens if at the end of Worlds Collide, MJF has another successful title defense? That's it. Worlds Collide's the WWE one. World's End. If they have a successful title reign, and then Adam Cole comes out at the end of the show and gives his buddy a hug, they're celebrating, kind of similar to what they did at All Out, and Adam Cole just pulls the mask right out of his pants and saying boom, and attacks him. Like, that's a good, there's a lot of good options, and we've made a lot of good options as we're probably running an hour and a half here on this show, but they're all now circled around Adam Cole. Like, we talked ourselves into Adam Cole now, so
we worked ourselves into his shoot.
It seems like that's what we always do with one another.
Man, but again, the fact that we're talking about it like this, really, I like I don't know what's going to happen. That is exactly what wrestling is predicated on. Yep. It is a movie that never ends. There's multiple movies. There's a movie every month, and you never know what the next one's going to bring. And sometimes you don't know what the one that's going to happen in a day is going to bring. It's exactly what we've done today here with the Full Gear predictions. Man. Woo. Yeah, seemed like an hour 10 here has flown by. Any last thoughts before we head out here?
Nothing except the fact that I know we have Survivor Series next week. It's Thanksgiving as well, next Thursday. So happy Thanksgiving to everybody before the wonderful holiday comes around. But I'm excited for a lot of Survivor Series going on next week. Some Seinfeld trivias. We're going to be spending a lot of time together, Juice, and I'm not sure how I'm going to feel about that after the fact. I'm just kidding, buddy. Happy birthday, buddy.
Let me say this as someone who's had a staunch record of heterosexuality. You're fabulous.
You're fabulous.
But man,
you're fabulous too, Juice.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. I'm thrilled for next week. Yeah, we're gonna have to get back in the saddle and dive into Juicebox again for some Survivor Series predictions next week. But as for this one, man, this was fun. I'm extremely excited and looking forward to seeing what happens at Full Gear. Who knows who the devil is? Who knows who the new signee is? Who knows if Sting will have a buzz cut or if he's still gonna roll with the Crow until Revolution. But I also think Ric Flair is going to take a bump. That's my big prediction for the show.
Woo! Yeah.
Woo! Well, Woo Energy is going to be at the announce table, backstage in the locker room, and the vending machines. So yeah, man, these always fly by. I love talking these PLEs and pay-per-views with you. Doesn't get old. So appreciate it, man, and can't wait to see the show. And we'll talk to you guys next week. Josh and I, at least. Who knows if we'll have anybody else diving in the Juicebox for Survivor Series predictions. But either way, it'll be Josh and myself. He's Josh Isenberg. I'm Juice Springsteen. And you've been listening to the Juicebox.
That was the Juicebox with Juice Springsteen. Make sure to subscribe to the Juicebox wherever you listen to podcasts.